Okay, my friend, let's talk about how to be present in your messy life and still go after your goals. So, if you've probably noticed that you have goals in your life, but it's sometimes very difficult to go after your goals and at the same time be present with your family and to live life in a way that feels really rich in the moment. You might have been told that you can't have both, and that's probably why you have been struggling thus far to be present in your messy life and go after your goals. I'm going to show you a different way to do things in this Ask Me Anything call. So, you may have noticed so far that when it comes to life, life is always going to throw us a messiness. Whether it's interruptions or obstacles, challenges, struggles, all the things. And what happens is that most people want to write off the day the moment something doesn't go according to plan. And if your standard becomes, well, I can't do anything now because my life is messy, you're going to find that you aren't going to be moving very far very soon because life is always going to be throwing us things our way. And I'm going to show you how to still move forward even when life is messy and even when it just is, a normal human experience, because you don't need to have a perfect life in order to move forward. You just need to have a different way of showing up in this mess. Because if you've been waiting for your life to come down, for things to feel easier or more organized or less chaotic, maybe when the kids are old, or maybe when work settles down, or maybe when I finally feel on top of everything, and that's when you think you're going to go after your goals, real life does not actually work like that, because there's always going to be something going on. Something unexpected, something messy, something pulling your attention in different directions. And if you're someone who has goals, like things that you want to do or create or build in your life, it can often feel as if you're being constantly pulled between two worlds, being present in your real everyday life and making progress on the bigger things that matter to you. And sometimes it feels like you have to choose, like you can either be present, available, and grounded in your life, or the focus driven version of yourself who actually follows through on your goals. But what if, that's a complete lie that you have to choose one or the other? What if you don't need to have a perfectly calm and organized life in order to move forward? Okay, that is what we are going to be looking at, because if a goal isn't just, balance, but learning how to show up for both your life, your everyday life, and your goals in a way that feels really real and sustainable to you. That is the goal, because obstacles are not the exception. They're part of the human experience. We're always going to have challenges. We're always going to have interruptions. We're always going to have unexpected problems. And if you're waiting for all of that to disappear, you're going to be waiting forever, heads up. So I wanted to open up this Ask Me Anything call where we can start to talk really honestly about how to stay present in your messy life and still go after your goals, okay? Not perfectly, not in a way that everything, comes, like is done flawlessly, but just in a way that feels intentional and grounded and actually moves your life forward. And so if you feel like you've been stuck between like both worlds, like living your life and building something more, you're in the right place. So first question is, how do I stay present with my family when my mind is constantly on my goals? This is often like something that mums especially like experience, like you're physically here in the moment, but mentally you're somewhere else because you're thinking about what you need to do or what you didn't finish or what you have coming next. And so it feels like you're missing the moment when you're actually in it. And so the issue isn't that you care too much about your goals. Like, I can't stop thinking about your goals. It's that you have not intentionally like switched the roles. And so what you're doing is you're carrying one role into the other. So like you finish working, but your mind still, has lots of open loops and unfinished tasks or ideas still running in the background of your mind. And so even though you've stepped into your new family role, part of you is still at work. And so how to get past this, the shift is very simple but powerful, is just intentionally close the role before you enter the next. So when you're done with your work, it's like, okay, what did I just complete? What needs to be done next? When am I going to return to it? Like whether you journal it all out and then you tell your brain, okay, or what you're doing when you're doing this, writing it down and just closing it, is you're saying to yourself, this is handled for now. And so when you come back to your family, whatever it is, your real life, you can feel more present in the moment, okay? Now, being present doesn't mean that you don't have any thoughts. It's just about choosing where your attention goes. You want it to be like right in front of you when you're in that moment. Number 2, how can I actually work on my goals when my day keeps on getting interrupted? Okay, please do not make the mistake of thinking that you are going to, have to wait to have a grand block of time, like copious amounts of uninterrupted time in order to move forward on your goals, because you're going to struggle, because your real life is going to always offer you interruptions and shifting priorities and things that aren't going to go according to plan. And so the goal isn't to, find and protect a perfect block of time, but to learn to work with the imperfect moments of your life. And so instead of needing, 2 hours at a stretch, can you use 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, half an hour like in the morning before anyone wakes, and you choose those imperfect moments and you make those count, and you learn to return back to them quickly. Because the reason that most people get why they get interrupted in the first place is because they allow those distractions to not just like happen in the moment, but they drag it out. They don't come back to it. And so that's where most of the progress is actually lost, because you didn't just get interrupted, you also didn't return to your work. And so plan for those interruptions, plan to work in the messy moments. Progress is definitely going to happen when, what you do, not just when interruptions happen, okay, but in the moments where you come back to it quickly. You're not waiting for the interruptions and obstacles to disappear. You know that they exist, and you do your best to work within those confines, okay? And so all you really need to be asking yourself every day is like, what's one tiny little next step that I can take, and focus on that one tiny next step and doing it in the imperfect moments of your life. Next question is, what counts as enough on the days when everything goes off track? Well, you get to decide what enough means to you, okay? So what happens is most people, have this like grand plan of what they want to do in a day. And then life happens, and then they say, my gosh, well, life is ruined right now, and so they do nothing. But in a messy life, you're going to set for yourself a different standard. It's not like, did I do everything on my to-do list? It's like, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that I can do to move myself forward, okay? Writing a paragraph, like making a call, like just short little bursts that you can work on, and you can just consider that to be enough. Like enough is just defined by you. It's not something I can tell you what it is. But on messy days, like enough is not everything. It's just something. Do something rather than doing nothing. And decide what your minimum standard is. Like even on the hardest day, I'm still going to find like 5 or 10 minutes to focus on this and then do that one thing. Next question. How do I stop feeling as if I'm doing everything badly, life and goals? This is what happens when you sometimes we're trying to, nurture a loving family and, social life and all that stuff and goals, and you feel like you fall flat with both. But that often comes from having these impossible expectations. Like you expect, full productivity, full energy, like amazing everything all at the same time. And when you don't get what you want, okay, we can't always have what we want, but you feel as if you're failing at both, okay? But sometimes, if you have this feeling, what did you say? Feeling like I'm doing things badly. You might need to just acknowledge, are you feeling stretched? Are you trying to navigate multiple roles? Are you living in a season of your life where, there is going to be less time to dedicate to your goals? The real issue is always going to be, how you're measuring yourself. You don't want to be measuring yourself against perfection, but you want to consider you're a normal human having a real normal human experience. And so you're probably not doing everything badly. I'm going to guess that you're doing multiple things imperfectly, which is exactly what a full life looks like. And if you can say that you're showing up in the best way that you can, that is good enough. And at the end of the day, you can ask yourself, did I show up well today? Yes, perfect. And what did I do to move myself forward? Okay, train your brain to see what is working rather than focused, when they say count your blessings versus counting your troubles. Number 5, how do I switch between life mode and goal mode without feeling torn? If you're feeling torn, it probably means that you're trying to do both modes at once, half working and half present. And that's just going to make you feel really tense. And so I'd prefer for you to focus on full presence in one mode. So when you're the family, let it go, put away your phones and be there. When you're working, okay, once again, put away your phone, the distractions, set those clear boundaries and get to work. Be there fully in the moment. And just have that intentionality set. Now, you don't have to, switching between them, making sure that you have that transition like I mentioned before. Those transitions matter. So you close your laptop intentionally, you put it away, you take a deep breath when you leave the room. You mentally say this is what we're focusing on now. Okay, that's how you create that shift. Because you don't have to do anything perfectly, and you don't have to do everything at once. But you just need to make sure that you're closing down that mode and just saying, okay, I'm now stepping away from that. Just say those words and I'm stepping into a different mode. What do I do when I finally get the time, but I'm too tired to use it well? As humans, we're going to experience fatigue and feel exhausted, especially when your energy is low. And so most of the time, what we either do is like do nothing or feel really frustrated, like if you are genuinely exhausted. We're talking about genuinely exhausted. But the mistake is to expect that you're going to do like high performing tasks when you are experiencing low energy. So I always say like match your tasks to your energy levels, okay? So when I'm in a low energy mode, I might do planning, organizing, light writing, reviewing, editing. High energy tasks, like when my energy is higher, then I do the creating and the brainstorming, the problem solving, the deep focus work. So stop expecting that you are going to like work 100% of the time, like with every given minute that you have. And working to your energy levels in that whenever you have those moments available to you. That's when life becomes easier, because you don't actually need more energy. You need to use the energy that you have more intelligently. And so just have a few low energy tasks that you can work on whenever, you just are feeling that tired. It's okay to feel tired, but you can still do, low energy tasks. How do you keep the momentum up when you literally can't show up consistently every day? Well, I want you to be aware that consistency doesn't mean that you're doing anything perfectly. It just means that you are like staying connected to your goal and like returning quickly if you need to take a break. So the reason that most people like lose that momentum is because they don't just miss a day, like they miss a few days and they disconnect, and then it feels hard starting again. And that's why they delay. So I just want you to know it's just like reducing the gap between the actions. So if you have to like miss a day, then come back quickly. It's a return. It's a return. Even if you just do the tiniest little action in order to instigate that return. Consistency is definitely not about never missing a day. It's just not about like disappearing forever. You're gonna have to come back. How do I stop waiting for a clear day to finally focus? It's a big mistake to expect that you're going to do something when it's a clear day or a clear, calm, like, maybe you mean like clear schedule. Because even when they come, even when you have like a totally free day, sometimes we don't always use them as well as we think we should or will. And so the habit probably isn't there. So instead, I would prefer that you nurture the skill of, taking action even when it's a little bit chaotic, and building that habit of, working on imperfect days. Because that way, when you do get the time, you're ready. You've already got that practice. Like, oh my gosh, like if I know how to work with the crazy stuff on my goals, like I learn how to squeeze in 10 minutes here or 15 minutes there or even 5 minutes. If you learn that skill of taking action on the messy days, or when you do get a clear day or clear, block of time ahead, it does become more easier to focus, okay? Because you've mastered that skill of working with the messiness. How do I deal with the frustration of slow progress? Part of this is understanding, I think, that slow progress is going to be, of course, uncomfortable, but it's part of life. Growth and getting to your goals is not always going to be linear. Now, I know that we always want more, expect more, know that we're capable of more, and expect things to happen on our timeline. But life is sometimes going to be, it's almost like planting those seeds, and when things come to fruition, you can't yell at that seed to grow and to make it come any faster. Sometimes you just need to wait. And so I always encourage you to focus on planting seeds, because that equals eventually like sustainable progress, because eventually like some of those seeds are going to sprout, and because you were planting more seeds while you were waiting, over time it's going to compound, okay? Rather than, stopping when the progress feels slow, and then what happens is that then you don't even have that opportunity for your results to compound over time. But steady movement, okay, the tortoise and the hare, remember, steady movement is the thing that leads to progress. Because remember, like if you're talking about like feeling frustrated at slow progress, progress still is progress. Progress is still moving forward, okay, as opposed to stagnation or staying stuck. So as long as you're moving forward and you're heading in the right direction, I say you're onto a good thing. And steady movement and steady action and steady progress still counts, even if it's tiny. Okay, because a messy life sometimes means that we have an uneven pace. And so as long as you know that progress is moving your life forward, you're moving in the direction of your dreams, I want you to count that could be a good thing. Whereas no progress means that, you're stuck exactly where you are and you're not moving forward at all. Next question is, how do I enjoy my life now without feeling as if I'm always falling behind on my goals? Part of like the falling behind, we have to understand, like sometimes we've set these dates full of finish lines that we expect, and then we feel like we're always behind. But that really is just, an idea, a story that we're telling ourselves. But of course, you want to enjoy your life and be present and not miss all the moments. And at the same time, also grow and achieve and move forward. And so what you probably have found, what I'm suspecting you're talking about, is that when you relax, you feel guilty because you feel like you should be still working on your goals. And, when you work, then you feel bad because you're obviously missing, like the opportunity to rest. But I want you to consider that the solution isn't choosing one or the other. It's trusting that you can have both existing over time. You can rest and work without this idea that you're falling behind. What if you're exactly where you are supposed to be at this point in life? You don't have to be on all the time because your battery is going to feel very depleted, and you need to, of course, like replenish, like fill in your tank with the fuel that is going to come from rest and, like really, really nurturing our soul and so forth. And so rather than feeling like you got to always be on, all you need is intentional effort when you do work and intentional presence with your loved ones when you're there. And if you're doing things intentionally, okay, you're not falling behind, okay, you're just building your life and your goals, okay, at the same time and at a pace that is, true to you. Next question is, how do I decide what actually matters when everything feels important? Okay, not everything can be important, by the way, okay, that goes against the definition of what a true priority is. If you're saying to me, if you're writing down that everything feels really important, it means that you probably haven't decided what truly matters the most out of all those things that you think are important, and you're letting urgency decide for you. All those messages and the requests and the deadlines and other people's needs, it feels very important. But just because something is loud and noisy in your life does not mean it is important. So you end up, if you live life this way, where you're always like, to the whim of whatever's noisy or urgent, you're going to end up reacting and then pushing aside the goals that actually matter most to you. So the shift is, like, if you feel like everything is important, understand that not everything truly can be important. And so stop asking like what feels most urgent and ask yourself instead, like, what matters most long term? Like, what is a true priority for me in this given day? And they're rarely the same thing. Okay. You can say no, did you know? You don't have to agree to everything. You can move things around in your schedule. You don't have to like answer a call if you're in the middle of something. You don't have to respond or do anything, really. It's all up to you. You don't have to say yes to everyone and everything. You get to protect your own time. You don't have to do everything, and you need to decide what are your true priorities. And if everything truly feels important to you, it's usually because you have not clearly prioritized your, like what's most important to you. And so just pick 1 to 2 priorities per day, like for your life, for your goals, and let those guide your decisions. Like my priority might be to do a game night, like play a game with my friends, with my kids, and then focus on this particular task. And that's a priority for the day. You can keep it that simple. How do you set boundaries around my time without feeling guilty? Well, guilt always comes from this idea that if you say no to something or someone, like you're letting them down. And so you say yes. But then please pay attention to the fact that if you say yes to something that you truly don't have the capacity to do, or you don't want to do, then your time disappears, then your goals get pushed aside, and then you feel very resentful. And so the truth is, just consider that like every yes you give to someone has a cost. The cost is usually you, your time, your energy, your priorities. And so the question is like, who are you willing to disappoint? Because you can't avoid disappointing someone. Like you don't disappoint yourself if you say yes to someone to make them happy, or they might be disappointed because you've chosen to focus on yourself. And so sometimes we will disappoint others. Sometimes we're going to disappoint ourselves, but you just want to make sure that you are like putting yourself in in the steering wheel when it comes, so your hands on the steering wheel while you are moving through life. Because saying no to something isn't selfish. You don't have to feel guilty. All you're really doing here is protecting what is most important to you, and that's such a sign of maturity to be able to do that. And so you start small, you say no to the things that don't align with you one at a time, and you'll get better at this with practice, I can promise you. What do I do when I feel pulled in too many directions at once? That often comes from thinking that you have to like hold everything at the same level. Like I need to do this and this and this and this and all at once, but you can't. Okay, because if you try to do all the things, you're going to feel very scattered and stretched and mentally overloaded. So the shift is to stop thinking that you have to do everything at the same time. And once again, came back to your priorities. What matters most right now in this moment? And it might be your family, it might be speaking to a parent, but whatever. What matters most to me right now in this moment? Okay? Right now you might be with your family. Right now you might be working on a task. Right now it might be this project. But give your attention to whatever is most important in that moment. Because you don't have to carry everything at once. You just need to like choose what you're going to be focusing on, choose where you stand, and back your priorities. How do I stop saying yes to the things that take me away from my goal? I could say that the answer is as easy as just saying yes, okay? Most people don't say yes because they want to. They say it because like they feel pressure or feels easier, or they, feel like it's expected. But every yes is going to be a no, like I said, to your dreams. So make sure that you are saying yes to the things that matter and saying no to the things that don't. I hope I said that right. Yeah, because if you're saying yes to someone else, you are maybe working against your own goals, your time, your energy, all of those things are going to be a trade off. And so instead of asking, like, should I say yes to that task, you can ask yourself, is that aligned with where I want, with whatever my goals are in life? And what else will I be saying no to if I do say a yes without thinking? So you just want to have that awareness, because saying yes to everything is probably like the fastest way to make it pretty obvious that you're a people pleaser, and also to make no progress on what truly matters. Okay, you want to be saying yes to yourself. How do I handle days where everything feels hard and I feel like I don't feel like doing anything? Well, these days are normal. Like sometimes you can do nothing if you need to refuel your tank. It's not a problem that you need to fix. Most people think it's like, well, I'm not motivated, or I'm just not feeling it today, so they stop completely, and then they don't ever pick up when they not when the motivation, because motivation's fleeting, but they forget to revisit their why and their commitment. So if a day feels truly hard and you don't feel like doing anything, maybe you can lower the bar if you've got it in you. Don't disappear completely from your life. But instead of doing nothing, you might want to work 5 minutes on something, or just take one little baby step, or just do a low energy task and stay connected to your goal. Because it's the way that you get to your goals is just like to keep on moving at a small little pace. And so your hard days, like, unless you truly need the rest, your job isn't to do like miraculous, massive things when it's a hard day. It's just to stay in motion and do something small. How do I trust that I'm doing enough when progress feels invisible? As someone who, I know exactly what this feels like when you're showing up and nothing yet feels different. And so your brain starts to wonder, like, is this even working? I want you to think of the fact that most of the progress that we experience in the beginning is like invisible in the beginning. Like, remember we said planting seeds. You're doing the habit forming, you're doing the skills building, you're like consistency stacking. And so all of that happens before your results show. So if you're only trusting what you see, like the visible results, you don't want to make sure that you're quitting too early, because just because you can't see the progress yet doesn't mean that it's not happening beneath the surface, like the planting the seeds. And so I want you to be tracking your effort, okay, on a daily basis. What are you doing? Not just the outcomes, did you show up to your goals? Okay, that can count, that still counts. And that can be also enough. And it will, of course, be invisible in the first place. How do I stay connected to my goals when life feels really heavy? There are definitely going to be seasons in our life that feel heavy. Let's just say if you've got true stresses in your life, or challenges or emotional load. And so in those moments, your goals can feel a little bit distant, but the mistake is thinking that you have to work at full capacity or not at all. And so remember when I talked about the low energy seasons, like I know that definitely when we've had harder seasons, to say if a parent has been not well or whatever, rather than thinking, well, I can't do anything at all, which it might be true in moments, but you may choose to. I found it helpful to stay connected in small ways. It's not one or the other. You can, lightly plan, take very tiny steps, do those low energy tasks. You can think about it, brainstorm, like write down your ideas, just stay connected. You don't have to push yourself hard in the hard seasons, okay? But you just don't have to disconnect yourself completely either. Like, consider, we're going to have seasons in our life where we can do more and do less, but doing less doesn't mean doing nothing. Remember that. How do I stop overcomplicating everything and just focus on what truly matters? Overcomplicating often comes from like overthinking everything, or trying to do too much, or trying to do everything perfectly, instead of just like one clear action. Okay? You can do one clear action and focus on that. Or rather than like if you're trying to overcomplicate, you're giving yourself like multiple steps, or like, I don't know, like a crazy load of stuff to do, and it's so complex, and then you stall. But I've always said, like, simplicity is the key to moving forward, okay? Now, it's not to say that it's going to be easy, but you just have to keep things simple, like simplify aggressively. Ask yourself, like, that's the one thing that is going to move me forward today. Not what else can I add? Like, how can I make this harder for myself? It's like, how can I make this easier for myself? Because even though like a very complex plan might look really productive on the surface, I'm sure there's like a psychological term that describes like the joy of like simplifying things to the point, because simplicity is what is going to create results for you. How do I let go of pressure to do everything well at the same time? Understand that the pressure is unrealistic. I know it's also common to expect that you are going to be fully present and highly productive and emotionally available and all the things and consistent all at once and every single day. And when you're not, you feel like you're failing. But a full life does not look like that. It's going to have ups and downs, highs and lows, shifting priorities, imperfect effort, different focuses on different days, high energy, low energy. And you don't have to do everything well at once, or at the same time. You just have to do what matters well enough. Okay, so remember, you don't have to excel at everything at the same time. You can move, between your priorities intentionally. But the pressure to do everything is like often internal. It's like a backpack. You got to do this. You got to do this. I should, and just like put that backpack down. You don't have to do everything well. So let go of that expectation. I feel like the moment you release that expectation, your life becomes easier. Okay, last question is, what does a good day actually look like in a full, messy life? Well, understand that what most people define as a good day is everything, being done perfectly, everything smooth, everything controlled, which rarely happens. And so it often feels like most days aren't good enough because not everything's been done perfectly. A better definition is to have a good day where you were present at some point, you moved something forward, you showed up intentionally, not perfectly. You did it very messily and you did it very consciously, because that is what's going to build it over time. Okay. A good day is not perfect, it is intentional. Okay. So as long as you understand, there's no possibility that we're going to ever do things perfectly in life. We're going to do things in the messiness of our life, but we're going to be intentionally thinking about how we're going to show up. Okay, so the one thing that I want you to take away from this conversation is that your life is not going to suddenly become calm and clear and perfectly organized, okay, before you have to make space for your goals. The moment's never going to come. Life is always going to have something going on, something messy, something unfinished, and that's not a problem that you need to fix. It's the environment that we're all living in. And so the goal isn't to wait for better conditions, it's to show up within the life you already have and to stay present in your real everyday moments and still take those small, consistent steps towards the things that truly matter to you. Not perfectly, not all at once, but all about intentionality, okay? Because over time, those little small moments of presence in your life and in your work are always going to count for something and build over time and compound over time. And that is how you go ahead and create a life that feels good to live in, because you've learned how to show up in the messiness and you've learned how to move forward even when life is not perfect. And if you've been listening to this and thinking, okay, I get it, but I still find myself slipping back into the same patterns, that's exactly normal, okay? Because knowing what to do and actually showing up consistently in a real messy life, is sometimes not the easiest thing to do. Okay, because remember, you can know what you need to do, okay, but it's not going to actually count for much unless you align it with aligned action. And that's exactly why I created Inspiring Life Academy. It's not about adding more pressure to your life or expecting that you are going to suddenly ever be super disciplined or super motivated. Both of the things that I don't think that you need to be in order to achieve your goals. What you need is courage, okay, and commitment and a desire there. And so the Academy, in case you haven't come across it, is lifetime access to all 90 plus of my courses and coaching roadmap. Is going to give you a simple, practical way to think differently and make better decisions and follow through to achieve your goals, even when our life is full and busy and crazy and unpredictable. It's all about achieving your goals without ever having to sacrifice your soul or your sanity or your family life or anything that is truly most important to you. And this is not about having more time. It's about using the time and energy and intention that you already have in a way that actually moves you forward, okay? Inside Academy, I show you how to stop overthinking and second guessing yourself, stay consistent without needing anything to be perfect, and building real momentum in your life without sacrificing the parts that are truly most important to you. That's like one of my core beliefs, and it underpins every course that I've ever created. And so instead of feeling like you're constantly torn between your life and your goals, you're going to show you how to hold both in a way that feels very calm, intentional, and sustainable. And so if you're ready to stop waiting for life to come down and start making progress towards your goals, achieving your goals without sacrificing the things that are truly most important to you, I encourage you and invite you to join me inside Inspiring Life Academy. You can probably see the link below or go over to inspiringmomlife.com/academy, because you do not need a perfect life to move forward, okay? It's impossible. You just need to decide that your goals matter enough to you to show up for them right here, right now, in the middle of your real and very messy life. I have been your coach, Frances Vidakovic. I hope to connect with you again soon.